Hey guys, Horrorman back for another review. So today we're going to take a look at the Ultimate NECA Toys It Chapter 2 Pennywise figure. So this is the only figure we've seen so far based off of that sequel. And it does come packed with some really cool pieces. So let's go ahead and take a look at the packaging here. So you got this really creepy picture of Pennywise on the front. You got the It logo and it says Chapter 2. You do have a little hanger tag at the top of the box. On the side you get this really creepy picture of Pennywise, which looks like the same exact picture, it's just zoomed in. Get a couple logos on the side, same at the other side. Top has the same picture, bottom has some of the credits. Alright. And then over to the back. And this is where you really have the figure showcased really well. So you have all four head sculpts that come with the figure represented well here. You do have a little read-up of It Chapter 2, if you want to pause that and read it. At the bottom it kind of just tells you the pieces that it comes with. And then coming back around to the front, you do have a really cool picture of Pennywise on inside flap. And then you can see the figure and all the contents are clearly displayed inside the box. And then you could just close the actual box up with that Velcro piece. Alright, so let's go ahead and get this out of the box and have a closer look. Alright, and here's Pennywise outside of the packaging. And I can already tell this definitely has a darker look to it than the previous versions. Now before we get to the head sculpt, I just want to show you that you do get a background piece with him, which is pretty cool. It's got like the kids, or I guess this would be the adults with the flashlights. So that's pretty cool. So that's a different background compared to some of the other ones that we get. So you do get that one. And besides that, you do get some interchangeable heads, some interchangeable hands, and not much accessories. And we'll go over all that and articulation as well as comparisons at the end of the video. So let's go ahead and get a nice close-up of the first head sculpt. Alright, so for the first head sculpt you have, it's basically the one that comes on the figure in the box. And for the most part I think this one looks pretty cool. It's basically going to be the only real like happy clown Pennywise. And I always think it's cool if they do include that because he is a clown. And I think part of the mystery about him is that he looks inviting, but he's obviously deranged and very creepy. And all it takes is just a change in facial expression to really show that. So I am happy to get the happy face. And you got this kind of like crazy curl on the top, which looks really cool. I do like the look of that. I really do think the face sculpt looks great. I mean, it still has all those cracked details in the forehead like we've seen before. The makeup is really cleanly done. The eyes look good. I like the placement on those. The makeup looks really good. I really can't complain much about this. I think it's overall a good looking head sculpt. And over to the back you see he's got that hair that kind of combs up at the top there. Alright, now you do get several head sculpts with this, which is basically going to give you 4 in total. So you get this classic like happy Pennywise head sculpt. Then you get a couple from the mirror maze scene. So the first one you get is this really creepy, I guess you could say, it almost looks angry, but it looks happy, but he's got all the teeth showing. But this is also from the mirror maze. And so is this one. This is where he puts his tongue on the glass, so that looks pretty cool. And then you also get the Bob Gray head, which looks really awesome. Alright, so interchanging the heads is pretty much what we're used to at this point. You're just going to get a nice pull on that head sculpt, and then you just have the straight peg here, and then we'll just put the first head sculpt in here. And then when you get that on, you can kind of adjust the collar a little bit, but it goes on really easy. Alright, so here he is with the very happy, sharp teeth face. And it's very reminiscent of the one we saw in the well house Pennywise that NECA made. But this is the one, again, it's from that mirror scene. I think this is when he first sees the kid on the other side of the mirror. It's either this one or the Tong one was on there. But it's definitely from that scene. So it's kind of interesting that they've kind of picked that same scene to make at least a couple of these head sculpts. Alright, and here is the Tong head sculpt, and again, this is from the mirror scene where he basically puts his tongue on the glass, and I really like this, and the tongue itself does have a little bit of flexibility to it, but really, really cool. Now the final head sculpt is this Bob Gray head sculpt, which is basically going to be Bill Skarsgård without all the clown makeup. So it's more like what he looks like, but he has like the scars on his face for where he takes his hands and kind of scratches his face up. Now the one thing I saw, and I know I actually saw this in Say Ha Man, Raph, he does reviews on YouTube as well, and he kind of pointed it out. It doesn't really look exactly like Bob Gray in the movie because he had a really high forehead and he was balding, but I actually like this better. Bob Gray was hideous looking, and I kind of like that it looks more like Bill Skarsgård because he definitely is amazing in this role, and I just think it's actually cooler that we get something that resembles more of what he looks like in real life, just with this kind of scratched up Pennywise makeup. So I'm very happy with how this turned out. And just giving you a different angle of that face, you could really see he's got that big smile and a wide open mouth. So while the head sculpt isn't really Bob Gray, it is 100% Bill Skarsgård, and I am definitely very happy with how this came out. Alright, now I don't really want to go over articulation too much because it's the same as all the other Pennywise figures that were made before, so you're really not going to get anything really different here in terms of articulation. But you get plenty of movement, in the head sculpt, but this collar part is still a bit of an issue with getting a lot of like the looking down too far or back too far. That's really not too bad, but you do get some really good movement. I will say he's not quite as stiff as some of the other ones, so it seems like he's not like locked up with paint or anything like that. But you do get the double hinged knees and the double hinged elbows. So and then of course the waist, you can get some good articulation. So I mean, if you're used to these Pennywise figures, there really isn't anything really different in terms of articulation. The only thing I will say is I feel like they got better with the legs, so I can get these legs to stand, just go right next to each other. Some of the older ones, especially the first one, that leg on the right kind of like goes off to the side a little bit. So I will say the legs are a little bit better on this version. Alright, so as far as interchangeable parts, you actually get a decent amount of stuff here. We already kind of looked at all the head sculpts, so again, just to give you a quick rundown, you do get the regular smiling head sculpt, then you get the two mirror maze head sculpts with the grin and the tongue, and then you get the Bill Skarsgård or Bob Gray head sculpt. So I'm very happy with the head sculpts. That is definitely a huge selling point of this figure, especially if you already have Pennywise figures. You could just swap the heads out. But you also get a few sets of hands and one bonus hand. So the ones that come on the figure in the box are kind of like these like gripping or like kind of creepy relaxed hands. And then you also get a pair of the flat hands, and these are going to be ones that you'll basically put up against like a piece of glass or plastic to kind of mimic the scene where he puts his hands on the the glass in the mirror maze. And then you also have these little gripping hands, which are pretty cool. I think these will probably be good for gripping the SS Georgie or something like that. And then the final hand that you get is basically to grip the balloon. You only really get one accessory with this, and that is the red balloon, which we've seen done too many times. Now with this balloon, instead of getting the shinier red balloon like we did before, it's got a bit of a duller plastic, so it is slightly different, but yeah, we've seen this too much. Interchanging the hands has never really been a problem with me in these Pennywise figures, but one thing I'll say with this one is that this arm kind of comes off way too easy. It's not broken or anything, it just shouldn't come off that easy. So anytime I go to grip this, I have to kind of hold on to that. And interchanging the actual hand is easy. It's just that little part of his limb just comes off anytime I try. So you can get this new hand on, and then you have basically the hand that would hold the balloon. Alright, so realistically you should be able to get this balloon in once you have this hand on. However, I am not having luck with that. And I think one of the biggest problems is that they have changed the paint of the hands themselves. So the original Pennywise was a much darker scheme to the hands, and you could see here that it's completely different. One is gray, one is basically like white. And because of all that paint, you end up with the hole that the string for the balloon is supposed to go into. That hole gets way too tight. So with this one, the original one, the hole gives you just enough to put that, that balloon string through here, whereas this one, man, I just can't get it to work. And what happens is when you start putting that in, part of the end of this plastic will start coming out. So I don't think I'm going to be able to get this balloon in his hand for this review, unfortunately. What I will do, though, is I do want to show you there is a slight difference in the balloons. So this one is the original, this is the new one, and when the new one is just a little more dull, it's not so shiny. So this would actually really help for pictures, but unfortunately for this review, unless I really dig out some of that paint, I'm not going to be able to get him to hold that balloon. Alright, and here he is with the flat palms and the Tong head sculpt. So this one's going to be really cool if you can get him up against maybe your glass display of your showcase. I've also seen NECA doing those like tubes that you could put figures in. This might actually look really cool in that. So this really looks good. So I'm probably going to display mine mostly with this type of look. But yeah, I really like the inclusion of these hands, and man, I can't say enough good about this head sculpt. I like how the eyes are looking up, and the teeth really did come out really well on that one. They actually might look the best on that head sculpt. But yeah, overall, really cool looking. Alright, so for the first comparison, here he is next to a couple other Ultimate Pennywise figures made by NECA. So you have the original Ultimate, which is from the first movie, of course. Now, one thing about this one and also the Well House Pennywise, which is right here, is you can see the actual pom-pom is on the belt itself, whereas with this new one you don't see it on the belt. Instead, it's actually just underneath of that collar piece. So that's one little difference on there. And also the skirt piece isn't quite as like puffed out. You can see it's a little more relaxed on that one. And it's definitely a much darker like tone to the overall figure. Now, as far as I could tell, it may or may not be a completely different figure. I'm sure they borrowed some of the same tooling from this, but I'm definitely seeing some pieces that are all new. The collar is definitely new. So there all are like, there's definitely differences to warrant buying this figure, but I can understand if people don't want to spring for another Pennywise. But for what it's worth, it actually is a different body. For the next comparison, here he is next to the Tim Curry Pennywise, based on the original 1990 TV series. And then you also have the Pennywise from the 2017 movie, and this one's done in the retro style. Both of these are made by NECA Toys. You can clearly see the retro style is far bigger. Here he is next to a couple other NECA Ultimate figures. So you have the Ultimate Halloween 2 Michael Myers, and that's the original Halloween 2. And the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre Leatherface. And you can see they stack up pretty good. I would think Pennywise would just be a little bit taller, but for the most part I think they look good. And for your more modern / remake comparison, you have some other NECA Toys figures. So you have the Curse of Chucky, you have the Freddy Krueger from the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, then you have the Jason from the 2009 Friday the 13th remake. And then shout out to Anthony Kane of Kane's Crypt for this awesome Jason hockey mask. This is like the NECA Ultimate remake, but with this badass custom hockey mask. Alright, and for the final comparison, here he is next to some of the Joker figures. So you have the DC Collectibles animated version, the Mafex Dark Knight version. Those are both in 6-inch, so you can see they're way too small. Then you have the NECA Toys 7-inch, which looks pretty good, and that's also from the Dark Knight. And then I also added a couple of little accessories from the accessory pack that are also made by NECA, and those will go really nicely along with that Ultimate Pennywise. And one more thing, just for fun, I do have this old NECA chainsaw Ganado from Resident Evil 4, and I basically popped his head off and put this Bill Skarsgård head on there, and it actually does remind me of what he looked like in that scene, because he's kind of sloppy looking with these like suspenders and kind of dirty clothes. And I think this actually looks pretty good. And I actually think he wasn't even in very good shape, so this stomach kind of makes it look even crazier. But yeah, he's kind of cool looking. But yeah, I think if you're looking for a body to put this head on and you happen to have that chainsaw Ganado, this looks pretty good. I'm probably going to leave it like this for a little bit. Alright, so that's my review of the It Chapter 2 Ultimate Pennywise figure. And for the most part, I'm actually very happy with this release. I wasn't really sure right off the bat if I was going to love this, but seeing as there's only one Ultimate and really only one figure from this movie, I had to have it. There really is a lot to love with this figure, and if I go back and think about the different versions of Pennywise that I have, I think this actually might be my favorite one. And I say that because, really, when I look at it, the head sculpts are the biggest draw of all the releases, in my opinion. And with this one, you really do get the best of the best. I mean, you get the angry head sculpt, you get the happier regular head sculpt, you get the Tong head sculpt, and getting that, like, Bill Skarsgård head sculpt, that really puts it over for me. The only real gripes I have about this figure is, one, that arm is a little loose, his left arm. It definitely, as you saw in the review, comes out a little too easy. The only other gripe I really have is the accessories, which sucks to complain about that, because when you think about it, interchangeable parts and accessories go hand in hand. So the interchangeable parts are fantastic. I mean, you get extra hands, you get 4 heads. It's hard to complain. But then as far as like what he can actually hold, you know, you only get 1 balloon. Accessories aside, or accessory aside, and that slight issue with the arm, I'll be honest with you, and this is probably where I'm going to be different than most of the reviewers you watch, I think this is actually the best Ultimate Pennywise that we've got. So I did manage to pick this up on the NECA eBay. I actually ordered it a few days before my birthday, so I kind of wanted to get it for my birthday, so I'm pretty happy with that. But yeah, I really like this figure. I definitely would highly recommend it for people that have been, you know, collecting the Pennywise figures or just a fan of the movie. Thanks for watching my review. Please like the video if you liked it, leave a comment or question if you have one, and subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, guys, see ya!